Across the UK, elite helicopter teams are saving lives every day, bringing the hospital to the roadside in a race against time.
Where is he?
Can't feel a pulse.
These are their stories.
15 minutes, man. Understood, thank you.
You just stay still and we're going to get you out.
That's it. Big release. Come and give me a kiss if you want.
She's been an absolute star and very, very brave.
All right, sweetheart.
Norwich International Airport, one of the East Anglian Air Ambulance's 2 bases. 10 paramedics, 2 pilots, and 12 doctors ready to be called out at a moment's notice. Minutes into the shift, there's an urgent call to scramble.
Yep. It's south of the bridge.
What, got cardiac arrest?
Yeah, 43-year-old.
Oh,
Bloody hell.
I've been a doctor with East Anglian Air Ambulance since 2008. Initially, we were mostly going to trauma jobs. Now, I would say half the jobs we go to are medical jobs, and the vast majority of those are patients in cardiac arrest.
Is there a vehicle on scene, Andy?
I don't know yet.
Okay, so we might be first on scene.
Yeah.
I think it's down here.
This is sort of a square-shaped cul-de-sac.
Oh, God, where are we going to land down there?
Right, Pam, can we confirm if there's anything on scene at all?
Andy, one overhead, and can you confirm if there's a vehicle on scene, over?
It's a negative. You are going to be first on scene. The vehicle's showing 5 minutes or whatever.
Right, I'll go in.
Being first on scene is actually quite unusual for us, so it can sometimes be really complicated to work out what's going on.
Okay, it's going to be on the bit parallel to the Norwich Road. So
Yeah, it's down the bottom end, but there's a guard on the nose that I can land in.
Okay, yeah, it's on that far bit over there.
Red mini outside it, Andy, you got it? Thank you.
Open the door.
Yep,
Yeah, sounds good left.
thank you. And we are down, you are good out.
Andy, one on the ground.
Ambulance emergency. Tell me exactly what's happened.
My son is not so well. I think he's dying.
Sorry, you think?
He's dying.
Where are we going?
Oh, he's just barely breathing. He's gasping for breath. He's blue. Oh, dear me, please come.
Okay.
Where is he?
Okay, still breathing, occasionally.
Okay.
Can't feel a pulse.
Right.
Oh, I'll get some blood done in a minute. James was lying on his living room floor, really showing no signs of life at all. We needed to start life-saving treatment straight away. Okay, we've got lots of vomit.
We've got some O2, please, guys. Fantastic, that's right.
Okay, it's all right.
We've literally walked in the door.
Okay, so if you sort out the airway, something get cannula in. On the top of our blue bag, there's a sink plunger. If something can pass me that, that'd be great.
It's unknown how long James has been in arrest. The longer it takes to restart his heart, the higher the chances of permanent damage.
Okay, let's get the pads on. Lovely.
Yeah, I've got a lot on it.
Yep.
Plunger there, Pam.
Thank you. It isn't quite a sink plunger, but it's essentially the same idea. It's really hard work to use, but it's very effective.
How you doing with your cannula? Okay, we're going to stop and do a rhythm check. We do have a rhythm compatible with life. Can you check the pulse? Okay, we've got a good pulse now.
Good.
So let's get that sorted out. We'll stop CPR. Andy, you're sorting out the airway.
I'm not going to tube him at the moment. He's actually responding to
Okay,
that.
excellent.
At this point, we didn't really know why James's heart had stopped. I needed to talk to James's mum to try and establish what had been happening.
Can you tell me what happened?
I said good night to him last night at 10 o'clock, but he couldn't sleep with the pain. And he'd taken some pethidine that the doctor had given him.
Right, where's he got pain?
A trapped nerve.
Right.
And he always...
He's had some pethidine, Andy. Can you just check his pupils and see if he needs some Narcan? Thank you.
Yeah, they are quite constricted.
Okay, should we give him some Narcan? Okay, thank you.
The pethidine.
You took the pethidine. So this was dispensed yesterday?
Well, if he took it yesterday, not last night.
Okay. James had been prescribed the day before a range of medication for sciatica and back pain, which were all perfectly sensible and reasonable and were designed to help relieve the pain and the spasm in his back.
Painkillers can slow the heart rate. For James, a combination of drugs, including morphine, an opiate, slowed his breathing down to the point that his heart actually stopped.
So it feels to me like respiratory arrest post-opiate overdose, maybe in somebody's opiate naive.
Unfortunately, sciatica and back pain can be really unbearable for patients, so I can see that he was just trying to get on top of the pain that night.
James? Yeah. Hi, my name's Andy from the air ambulance. Do you know where you are? No, okay. You're at home at the moment. You just had a bit of a funny turn. Yeah. I'm just going to give you some oxygen on a face mask. You just need to breathe it in for a little while, okay? Just lay nice and still while we do a few more tests, okay?
James, have a big cough for me, darling. Good.
He's awake and responding to us now.
Yeah. James, look who's here. So say hi so she's convinced you're all right.
Mum.
Are we going to fly or are we going to go by road? How far is it by road? Half an hour.
The ambulance was parked outside the front door, the aircraft was some distance, so we chose to go by road in this occasion. He also had the potential to deteriorate again. The drugs were given him to reverse the morphine overdose, have a shorter duration than the actual morphine itself. James, I need you to keep still for the moment while we just do a heart tracing, okay? Nice and still, don't move anywhere for the moment.
With no way of telling what effects the drugs could still have on James, the next few minutes could be critical.
You what, sorry?
Breathe.
You can't breathe?
No.
In Norwich, the team of Helimed 85 have brought James back to life. An accidental overdose of prescribed painkillers had caused his heart to stop.
We have resuscitated him and are intending conveying him by road to the Norfolk and Norwich. Over.
By road to Norfolk and Norwich, is that over?
Yep, that's all confirmed. Over.
ECG's fine.
Super job.
Good. Right, James, we're going to take you off to the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital, okay?
Are you going to come with us, or are
I
you...
won't go. I'll follow.
Okay. Okay. Get your breath back. Is there somebody who can be with you?
I don't come and see what
Nice. Good. Okay. So we've got pads running the trace there, that's fine. End tidal's good. Respiratory rate's dropped off a bit. Angle of unleaving scene on board the land vehicle.
Concentrate on those nice...
Do we see lead sequence?
So I reckon he's had 200 milligrams of Oromorph in 12 hours.
Yeah. So gabapentin prescribed yesterday as well. It's absolutely crucial that we know exactly what James has taken. We may not have seen the effects of those drugs at this point, and they may start to become more apparent en route to hospital. She's had 4 naproxen. She's had 55 milligrams of diazepam.
Okay.
Well, that's what's missing out of the box.
Okay. And that was prescribed yesterday?
Yep. So all of this was given yesterday.
Okay.
It was only when I was sitting in the ambulance going through all the other tablets that I realised exactly how much medication James had managed to take. If we hadn't turned up when we did, honestly, he was minutes away from being irretrievable.
James is still in a very unstable condition. If his heart stops beating again, all his organs could shut down for good.
You're in the back of the ambulance going to Norfolk and Norwich. All that medication kicked in and completely flattened you. Do you want some more water? Here we go.
James, you're at the hospital now. Big deep breath and a cough for me.
Okay, a couple of bumps, James.
Morning, morning.
Here it is.
Sorry to bother you so early in the morning, Doc.
Someone got those lower shots.
So was this an arrest?
Yes.
Okay.
So, this is James' recent onset of sciatica. Last night he went to sleep on the floor having collected new medication from the GP at lunchtime. He was found by his mum this morning and she felt he looked dead, and he did indeed look dead. He had no palpable pulse. We started QCPR and he put an eye gel down, and having got the history we gave him some Narcan, at which point it all got better quite quickly really.
So potentially it was good luck that she found him then in arrest.
Yes.
At that time. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Jax.
The really important thing for us is to give the necessary life-saving interventions as quickly as we can, and then to get the patient to hospital. I think for James, if we hadn't turned up when we did, I don't think he'd be here to tell a tale, and that would be really sad.
Marvellous, all aboard then. Everybody happy?
We were first there. We saved his life.
Yeah.
What more can you ask for?
Doctor did some work. Awesome.
James will be kept under constant observation to monitor his organs and to ensure his vital signs return to normal.
Everyone's secure.
Secure in the back.
You're lifted.
Philadelphia vacate. Next flight, taxi Philadelphia parking stand 4.
Hello, Echo. Just to advise, we have lifted from the Norfolk and Norwich and are returning to base. Over.
In the north of England, the crew of the Great North Air Ambulance's Helimed 63 have just finished a job and are flying back to their base in Teesside.
Go ahead, man. Yeah, man. Got a job for you.
Ready to receive grid reference. It is November Yankee 608932.
An urgent call has come through for the team to divert immediately to the remote Kielder forest in Northumberland.
Carver's bike, 2 wrist fractures, possible pelvic fracture, and semi-conscious at the moment. Over.
Roger, mate. That is all understood.
We get a huge amount of motorbike accidents, more so through the summer. If you come off a motorbike, you've got very little protection, you get severe injuries, and sadly, a lot of the fatalities that we do go to are motorbike riders.
It's going to take us 12 minutes to get there. Change the update.
When it comes to motorcycle accidents, every second counts. A land ambulance would take at least 30 minutes to reach this area.
Kielder Forest itself is a very thick forest. It's a long way away from any of the nearest hospitals, so it's not where you want to hurt yourself.
We'll be just somewhere down here now, I believe. Is there anybody there to wave at us? The police are on scene, apparently, mate. They're the one that made the diagnosis. Right, have a look up that road.
I've got a police car, left-hand side.
Oh, we have got rapid on scene.
Can you get the clearing next to the police car?
Looking behind, there's no vehicles coming through. I've got both the road signs and we're going directly in between them both. Okay, mate. Okay, you're good left. Can I open this window, mate? Yeah, go for it. Right, have I got plenty of room left? Plenty of room left, you. Come left, just going to drift left, mate. Okay, just got that button just to watch there, it's only one. 6-3 on scene, over.
As we walked up the road, you are looking for clues as to what you might expect to find when you start talking to the patient. There might be skid marks on the road, damage to the vehicles themselves. It gives you an idea of what kind of forces are involved.
Hiya. Oh no. Well, this is Steve. Approximately 60 miles an hour. Coming up the road, car pulled out. He's hit the back corner of the car. This is approximately where he's landed.
Okay.
Not moved. Very, very tender touch on that right hip.
Okay.
He has got a big graze on his knee, but he's not been complaining of any C-spine pain.
Steve, hello mate, are you normally fitting well?
Yeah.
Where have you got the most pain at the moment?
I'm living up here now.
My hip and my wrist.
Got to be very, very careful. If someone's complaining of hip pain, he might have broken his hip itself. More worryingly, it could mean that he's broken his pelvis. Those sharp bits of broken bone can damage the blood vessels. On the outside, they look fine, but the patient can be bleeding to death in front of you.
Just breathe in that for us.
Getting Steve to hospital quickly becomes the #1 priority. But just moving him before assessing for other injuries could have consequences.
Motorcyclists are vulnerable. They've got minimal protection, so if they come into contact with something hard, like a vehicle, their body takes the full force. They've got a helmet on to hopefully protect their head, but the rest of them is essentially unprotected.
Have you got any pain up here? No? Any pain on that side at all?
Very tender touch as soon as you touch it.
Is that sore? Across here?
It's very tender.
Okay. There's a scoop coming.
Yeah, he's got the juice one here, mate.
Oh, there's midges everywhere. Can we have Tenomorph?
Yeah. So the first thing we need to do before we move him is to make sure his pain's under control, give him painkillers and splint all the broken bits so that they don't move about.
Steve, you said you're not allergic to anything, are you?
Midges.
Midges, yeah.
Midges, I think we're all allergic to midges.
If it's warm and it's not windy, that's it. Midgie City.
You get bitten to death up here.
Sorry, I don't normally do this.
Is that sore?
We had various different splints and stuff to apply at the time, but the midges were causing a real problem.
Right, Stephen, this is going to get tight round your hip, okay? I know it's not very nice.
We need to immobilise Steve's pelvis so that as we move them, hopefully the pelvis won't open up anymore and that'll limit any further bleeding.
Okay. It's a necessary evil, Steve.
Sometimes it's easier said than done because it does, occasionally create pain.
What's that? Get rid of! What's it off? Right, Steve, we're going to give you a strong painkiller now, okay?
Dr. Dian Arbid and the team of Helimed 63 have been called out to Kielder Forest in Northumberland. Motorcyclist Steve has been involved in a collision with a car.
See, we're coming up the road doing about 50-55 miles an hour and the car pulled out of the entrance here, hit the back end of the vehicle there, and that was it, come off and basically where he's lying.
He was complaining of a lot of hip pain. We always assume that they've done the worst, so we assume they've broken their pelvis, and you can quite easily bleed to death just from breaking your pelvis. We needed to get him rolled onto the scoop and immobilise him fully. This was creating a lot of pain.
Get rid of! You want this off? Great. I'll give some ketamine. Right, you're going to feel very woozy now, okay, Stephen?
Ketamine can affect people in different ways. They can hallucinate, and it can make them very vocal.
It's free. You're all right, mate. There you go. All right.
Oh, fuck! Where are you?
Yeah, I'm straight above you.
Look, I can see.
You can, yeah, right.
Oh, what's happening? Take us away.
You're gone in a minute, man.
In Steve's case, giving him ketamine made him quite noisy and that he was shouting out. And it's just one of those side effects that we occasionally see with ketamine with certain people.
Yeah. What the fuck's going on?
Putting you in a helicopter, you're going for a helicopter ride.
Hello.
As soon as we got into the helicopter, the midgies all went, which was very, very welcome.
Can we leave the door open?
No.
Shut that door.
This patient was a really good example of how the helicopter can be very beneficial because it brings the A&E to the roadside in a very remote situation. If you look back 10 years ago, they didn't have mobile teams with medical and paramedic staff working together in a trauma team, so pre-hospital care's come on a long way.
Right, have we got the gap for cranes? Continuing the other ones have cropped up. Right, go, bring that on. Good dog.
Hello. Right, and stop. And go. 48-year-old Stephen, motorbiker, doing about 60 mile an hour-ish. Yeah. Car's come out of a junction, he's gone inside the car, gone over the top of the car. Yeah. Injuries-wise, he's got an almost definite right-sided either hip or pelvis. He's absolutely squealing when you go anywhere near it, and he's got a splint on. He's got a slight deformity mid-right forearm, which is very sore, but it's closed. He's got pain in his left hand as well.
Stephen, we're just going to start to examine you. You're in Newcastle, you're at the RBI.
I've seen loads of motorbike accidents over the last few years, and Steve seems to be one of the lucky ones who's got away with it. But obviously only time will tell, and the next few days are going to be critical to him and to his recovery.
Steve's injuries will be scanned to determine if he has internal bleeding or needs immediate orthopedic surgery. 50 miles west in Penrith, the Great North Air Ambulance Service has been operating the Pride of Cumbria aircraft since 2004. Today, paramedic Andy Dalton is on duty.
I've worked with the Great North Air Ambulance for 9 years now.
So what does the forecast say then? So we're in area Alpha.
I've always wanted to do something with the emergency services even since I was about 12 or 13 years old. The thought that I actually would be doing it, particularly working on a helicopter, I would never have believed that.
We carry a lot of equipment and we don't really have the time to go hunting around for things, so we like to make sure that everything's correct and in its right place.
Also on call is Dr. Andy Barrington.
I've never woken up not looking forward to going to work on a helicopter shift. I enjoy it because you don't know what you're going to get. It's unpredictable and it's just very challenging.
Hello? Job? November Yankee 404624.
Land paramedics have requested specialist medical backup in the village of Blackford, 20 miles north of base.
Jay, start up.
There's no real hierarchy involved in the helicopter team. I really enjoy it. It's a different dynamic to in hospital. It is quite refreshing as the doctor not to automatically be the person in charge.
Any more details on this, Andy? No, just report this will be attacked by a boat, no further details at the moment. Anything is possible, really.
Crush injuries can be very severe and cause life-threatening problems. Organs like the lung or the heart can be damaged by simple things like rib fractures, but none of that's really obvious from the outside.
This is a farm called Keymount Farm, right? Obviously there's a bull. Hopefully the bull is nowhere near to be seen.
Animals are very unpredictable, and we've had experience of cows jumping over fences onto actual helipad sites. You just don't know what we're going to do.
Okay, ambulance in there, 40 yards. Is this possibly the field the other side of the road with the gate in the corner? Out of interest, that isn't the field with the bull in it. Negative, there's nothing in it. There's a bull in the bloody road. Right, 3 meters sun down. Stretchers over there.
The farm is deserted, with no sign of either the casualty or the bull.
The land crew led us into the farm building, which contained the pen, and the farmer was next to it, sat on a chair.
We think reduced our entry on the right side. There's an obvious mark on his back. Very aggressive.
From a safety point of view, the farmer was able to not get out.
Yes.
The bull's becoming more and more agitated within the pen, and it definitely made me feel uncomfortable to be in there.
Hi Paul, I'm Andy, I'm one of the doctors.
Sorry.
Whereabouts is the pain at the moment? In your stomach? Any pain in your chest at all? No. Any difficulty with your breathing? Okay. Okay.
It became obvious that the bull was distressed. We needed really to be out of that environment.
A cow had been in with the bull and he was getting the cow out and the bull had a do at him.
Yeah. Paul, is there any pain just down here? No. Sore there? Yeah, okay. So really it's just this side of your chest? Okay. The pain that we found was probably from rib fractures. The concern would be the damage that the fractured ends have done to the underlying organs like the lung or the liver. Right, we'll just pop this arm up.
There's nothing obvious, Andy, you think?
No, I don't think so. The ultrasound had confirmed that his lung was still fully inflated and probably not injured.
Okay. Right, guys, what we'll do is we'll just trundle him off to the aircraft, we'll get him in and we'll get him.
Is he conscious now?
Yes.
Just tell him
I'll be over shortly.
Farming's an incredibly hard job. I wouldn't want to be a farmer, but it's a very dangerous job. The injuries were sufficient to warrant diverting to what we would call a major trauma centre, and the closest one for us then was the RVI in Newcastle. The injuries will put him out of action, which are going to have a significant impact on his family and the farm and how it runs.
Just before you start her up, could I just have 2 seconds, Owen?
Let me know when you want to start, mate.
Yeah. Have a little listen to your breathing, Paul, okay? It's always a concern with helicopters because we can't just pull over for you to do something. So you want to make sure you're as stable as you can be before you choose to set off.
Oh, clear right, clear left. Right, you have starting 2. Yeah, Deska, that's us now airborne. We're showing an ETA to RVI of 18 minutes. Just to reconfirm patient details, it's a 46-year-old male who's been crushed inside a pen by a large bull.
Clearly KO'd. He has the braces to his back. He's complaining of significant pain on his right-hand side of his chest.
But he's been described by his family as not normally one to complain, and he's in a lot of discomfort and pain from this injury.
Concerns after that, and that's why we're going to the RBI.
That's all received, mate. 11 line.
Get the mask on his face.
Vomiting in the context of an abdominal injury could be a sign of deterioration, but in Paul's case I was more concerned that he was going to choke on vomit.
All right, a bit more oxygen.
Right, so this is Paul, who was in a pen with a bull, and the bull seems to have squashed him against a metal railing. C-spine was fine, chest, bilateral air entry. I couldn't actually feel any crepitus, but he is tender to palpation. A quick look at the ultrasound, it looks as if the lung is up on that side. He is tender right upper quadrant, but the abdo feels quite soft. Pelvis and everywhere south is fine. The main decision to be made in A&E is whether Paul needs to go straight to theatre to manage any internal injuries, such as a liver laceration, but also to decide whether there is actually any lung injury which would require a chest drain. It could take Paul weeks to get back to normal.
Cheers.
I don't know about you, but I just did not feel comfortable in that place with that thing bucking and kicking over behind.
It would have made things quite exciting if that railing had not stood up to it.
Norwich International Airport, home to Helimed 85 and the East Anglian Air Ambulance. Dr. Pam Crispin and paramedic Rod Wells are making good use of their time between calls.
What fun, okay.
Yeah, I'm testing you today then. Okay, so we've got an awake aeromedical transfer and the patient is hypertensive less than...
Pam's a great doctor. We got a really good working relationship. I think we're both methodical in our approach and we don't tend to rush around too much.
It could be absolute or relative fluid loss, so there could be bleeding, could be septic.
Running through scenarios like that is great for teamwork, and we know that well-drilled teams provide much safer patient care.
Keeps us sharp.
It's a team effort, because there is things that I will forget, there's things that Pam will forget, and there's a team, we're all there together.
Hello, Norwich. Yeah?
A call has come through to assist a 26-year-old female who's collapsed, suffering a life-threatening allergic reaction.
It's Tango Golf 374-031, is that right? We'll protect the aircraft. Yes, indeed.
The patient is only 11 miles from base, but even by helicopter it will still take 7 minutes to reach her.
What we're going to, Rodders? Respiratory rest due to anaphylaxis crew request.
Oh, bloody hell.
Proper one again.
True anaphylaxis is actually quite unusual. It's a completely overwhelming reaction which can rapidly cause the patient's death if not treated promptly.
There's going to be wires and all sorts down here. We're front getting into this one.
There's a real urgency to get to this patient fast, but urban areas are often difficult to land in.
Okay, so you have got a lamppost your side. I've got that one visual yet. There is a pole your side. Right, we're good down there, Rod. Your tail is clear, left is clear, underneath is clear. Yeah, we are clear to the front.
The pilots are great. They get us as close to scene as possible, but sadly sometimes leaping over the odd fence is just part of the job.
I can't get over that!
No, I can't get over anything. I have to climb into everything. I'm just little. I can roll under.
I'm going. Don't drop it. Sorry, we had a bit of trouble getting over the fence. Hello, Donna. An anaphylactic reaction can be immediately life-threatening. It can cause cardiovascular collapse and blockage of the airway.
So it really is a life-threatening emergency.
So 200 of hydrocortisone, and if we get a salbutamol on there, please, that'd be great. Salbutamol. You just keep concentrating on your breathing, sweetheart. Okay, so that's a 97, heart rate's 135. All right, darling, don't scratch, okay? I know it's really itchy, okay?
What are you allergic to?
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a bit frothy. Coconuts and kiwi, please.
It sometimes tingles a little bit when it goes in, sweetheart. It'll really help with that itching.
Cat wasn't shifting enough air backwards and forwards to get enough oxygen in. She was unable to get rid of the carbon dioxide that she was making inside her body. Such a high CO2 level would be a strong indicator that Cat's life is in immediate danger.
My blood pressure's all right. Did you want to sit up?
I think you can sit up, Cat. I'll support you.
We'll keep giving you the nebulizer. We'll get you something to stop you feeling sick, okay? You don't feel well, I know. You don't look very well. So we're not going to fly her, are we? So if we prep for you.
Okay, yeah, so we get ready to go then, mate, yeah?
Cat was quite unstable, so the sensible thing to do to transport her by road, so that if we needed to do anything by way of treatment on the way in, that it was relatively straightforward to do that.
Cat? Cat?
Cat!
Do you want me in there?
Yeah. Cat!
Kat has lost consciousness. She's not responding to the medication, and her condition is getting worse.
OK, she's still breathing, isn't she? So just keep her airway open.
She still seemed to be breathing as adequately as she had been, so I wasn't quite sure what was going on there, but it was clearly a worrying development.
She's got a pulse?
Yeah, she's got a bang and rage.
Yeah. OK, so she'll tolerate it. Gently, gently.
Kat was in a serious condition at that stage, and we did think about taking over her breathing altogether.
Yeah?
I think we're going to RSI.
I think we're going to have to at this point.
So an RSI is using drugs in order to get a plastic tube down somebody's windpipe. In Kat's case, this was necessary potentially for two reasons. First of all, her airway might be swelling, so we needed to hold her airway open. And secondly, she was breathing inadequately, so we needed to control and support her breathing.
In the meantime, can we have... Whoa.
Miraculously, she sort of recovered in front of us and became conscious again.
Kat, can you hear me? OK. How's that breathing feeling, sweetheart?
Hot.
Hot? Hard? OK.
I don't know why I thought intubating wasn't the right thing to do. In this case, I just had a feeling that Kat was probably going to manage without having to be intubated.
The trouble is we could get in a lot worse trouble, Rod. That's all I'm thinking.
Difficult decisions that could mean the difference between life and death have to be made instantly.
We could make this quite a lot worse. What are we going to achieve by controlling her airway?
Okay.
She's tight, isn't she? We're not going to make her less tight by giving her a lot of drugs. Yeah, thank you. Just give a couple of mils. That'll be fine. She's talking. She doesn't sound husky. Our airway's not getting worse. OK, yes, she's having a life-threatening asthma attack, but actually...
This is the only thing, is her end tidal's quite high.
Yeah, but we're unlikely to be able to get that down just through
Her
intubation.
BP is fine.
And we're risking blowing a pneumothorax.
And we're going to be in the back of an ambulance, so anything changes, we can pull over and do an RSI.
GCS is 15, isn't it? Yeah, OK, that sounds like a plan.
We had a conversation and decided at that point not to RSI her. She's still extremely ill, her breathing is still not really adequate. She was drifting in and out of consciousness. It was a really unstable situation.
So what we're going to do is head for the NNN as fast as possible, but recognising that we might need to stop en route, OK? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I still think we should have everything ready, Rod. Keep the gremlins away. So if we get another neighbour organised.
It's on its way.
Thank you. Because CO2's not coming down. Kat, it's a dilute, very dilute adrenaline. We can proceed gently if that's all right with everybody.
Proceed gently, mate. Everyone's on their feet.
Kat!
You all right, Kat?
She's gone off again.
Kat has fallen unconscious again.
Kat! Open your eyes for me, Kat.
She's still breathing.
Ooh.
Yeah. How far, Matt? 4 miles.
Shall we try doing a bit of gentle BVMing?
There are times when you feel completely in control, you know exactly what's going on, you know exactly what to do, but there will always be times when the scene's not under control, you don't know what the best thing to do is, and that can be quite worrying and frightening.
She looks bloody awful, doesn't she? All right, Kat, all right, darling. OK.
Just relax,
That's good.
Just relax.
OK, lovely.
How far, Matt?
A minute of the mile, is it? Brilliant.
Cheers, mate.
At times I'm quite glad to see the end then. All right, sweetheart, you've done really well. I'm sorry, I know it's been a horrible journey for you.
But we're here now.
All right, sweetheart. We're at hospital now, Kat, OK? Help, help, help. She's really not very well, this young lady.
Yeah, just inside her first here.
Ready, brace, slide.
Thank you.
Beautiful. I have that.
It's a 26-year-old girl from Ipswich. She doesn't know what she's eaten or drunk, but she had a very florid rash, having difficulty breathing. She's been very wheezy, and initially her airway was swelling. She's collapsed a couple of times, but not cardiovascularly. She's always been cardiovascularly stable. End tidal CO2 has been reading 10, and it's not getting better, OK? Other than that, we don't know very more about her. So it's really her CO2 that I'm more worried about than anything else, because it's sky high.
Allergic to anything that we're aware of?
She says coconuts and kiwi fruit.
And fit and healthy otherwise?
We don't know. Sorry, she's not been well enough to say that.
Kat will need to undergo many tests to try and establish exactly what it is that she's allergic to.
Right, I'm going to put that in there. Just remind me, I'll put the paperwork in there.
Right, I'm going to start, mate. Where's your paperwork?
In there.
All right.
Every so often I have this moment where I think, I'm really getting too old for this now. The bag's getting too heavy. I can't run as fast as I used to. I'm never going to get over that fence. And then every time I think like that, you take off and you just think, oh, this is beautiful.
Thank you, 115 from Norfolk Norwich. Thank you, 1 over 3.
Oh, what's that, man? Come on off!
It was a nasty accident. I'll never forget it, ever. I'll never ride a bike again in my life. Never. I don't even want to sit on one, ever again.
That was a difficult job, actually. I was quite scared there. They go bad on you and you can make them worse, and it's a difficult call to know what to do for the best.
OK, so if you sort out the airway, somebody get a cannula in.
I certainly don't want to put my mother through that again.
You'll never forget your terrible flashbacks.
Just means the world being with her, being able to be here and see her grow up. You know, treasure every day I've got with her.
Days like today are important because it makes you remember why you do the job. We're using our particular skills and expertise as a team to make a difference to patients.
Any pain in your chest at all? No. Any difficulty with your breathing?
We obviously don't want people to get injured, but if the worst happens for somebody, then, you know, we want to be able to be there to do what we can.
Cat! OK, she's still breathing, isn't she? So just keep her airway open.
In this job, I've learned to appreciate life. I really have. I'm now live life for today chap.